So, hello, some of you know me. I used to work at W3C. I've been at an organization called GS1 for a number of years. What do? We identify things. Most of you weren't born when ABBA won the Eurovision Song Contest in 1974. It's quite depressing as I get older. Not only I was born, I remember it. That was around about the same time when the first barcode went beep. And that's how old they are. There was a time before ABBA, there was a time before the barcode, 1974. But of course, it isn't the barcode, it's the number underneath. So what actually happens is that is the identifier that goes people to check out. That's the thing that gets looked up in the computer. And that number, which is a global trade item number, a Json, only has meaning because it's stuck on a product and you're sticking it in front of a particular kind of machine in a particular context. It doesn't really have any meaning beyond that. Retailers and supply chain people, which is the world I live in, I will come onto your area very soon, I promise. They also need more information than that. We don't just need a trade item number. We need to know the batch, sometimes a serial number, and often the expiry date. Do you go in a supermarket and you see something on the shelf and the expiry date is today, tomorrow? So you put your hand around the back and you get the one that expires in 2 weeks' time. That generates about 30 or 40% waste because you do that and I do that. So what supermarkets are doing now is using the expiry date to do dynamic pricing. So you get the thing that expires today cheaper. Saves a huge amount of stuff. But in terms of the things that worry you here, how do you put those identifiers into a barcode? Well, it looks like that, right? And my guess is none of you have an app, well, maybe Vladimir, but no one else in the room will have an app that understands that. Now, the reason it's in that format is because digits are more compressible in an optical barcode, so we use digits rather than letters. We want to keep the thing as short as possible. So there are very good reasons why we encode that data in that way, but it's almost useless to everybody else. How about if we took that same information, sacrificed a bit of efficiency, and stuck it on the end of a URL? Most of you are academics, you know about DOIs. That's exactly what DOI does. Take a DOI that exists on its own and stick it on the end of some sort of stuff. And that's what the GS1 digital link standard, for which I'm largely responsible, tries to do. You take an identifier, it's got the 01, that tells you that it's a global trade item number, and then there's the number itself. We can do more than that. We can take some domain name, we don't care what it is, you can put the trade item number on it, we can add in a batch, we can add in a serial, we can add in an expiry date. And what that means is that we have exactly the same information in a two-dimensional barcode, perhaps a QR code, as we did in that original one that we were using until recently. And the domain name doesn't matter. So with that kind of information in a 2D code, it means that we can do all our usual stuff around I wanted a picture of that one. I wanted those pictures, sorry. We can do point of sale. The first point of sale scanner to go beep with a URL in a QR code that happened in Brazil last October. You'll see this happening. We actually have to literally train the world coming up in the next few years to scan the QR code of the checkout as we get rid of the 1D barcode sometime around about 2030. All that supply chain stuff and back-end stuff we can do without going online, even though it's a URL, because it's got those identifiers in it. All right, let's talk about your world, data spaces and data infrastructures and that kind of thing. This is a URL. It's got a class identifier to the right of which is an instance identifier. Doesn't matter what particular kind of identifier is. We've got a class and an instance. We could have a class, subclass, instance, but you've got those identifiers that exist independently and by themselves. And we've got a structure that we can put them into a URL, which means we can start doing clever stuff. We can take those identifiers and we can connect it to this thing. This is a data structure called a link set. It's a set of links being standardized at the IETF. Thank you, Eric Builder and Herbert von der Sompel. And what it gives you, I'll highlight this, in the yellow there is the identifier. That identifies the thing, whether it's a, Martin was talking about a printed aluminium thing. Other people have talked about physical objects, like there was a gear chain, whatever. Physical things, you identify the thing. Don't give me an identifier for the electronic information. I've got this thing in front of me. That is a point of centralization. It's okay to have a single point of failure. It's the damn thing in front of you, right? So that's what the identifier is for the thing. And then you've got linked relation types. The first one there is to where you can buy this thing. The second one there is to the product information page. And then you've got the actual thing itself. Stick a bit of a context file in that and you've got some triples. Subject, predicate, object. From that thing that identifies the actual item itself. Linkset has had quite a long history. It is very close to becoming an RFC. I'm really hoping it does very soon. Okay, so if you've got that link set, so you know that if you're talking about engineering, give me the latest maintenance record. If you're talking about a food product, give me a recipe. Talking about flat pack furniture, give me the instruction video. You're talking about a medicine, I want the traceability. Talking about other food items, where's the food safety? Where was it grown? Where's the digital product passport, which is a massive use case for a lot of the stuff you're doing right now. Digital product passports, now part of EU legislation. Every product in the single market will have to have a DPP. So if you've got an identifier for the thing and it's somehow connected to this link set, can you not query and say, I want the digital product passport, just redirect me to that, or I want the product information page, take me to that. And that's what the GS1 digital link system does. We have a system where we take existing identifiers, any kind of identifier, and we stick it on the end of a URL. The domain name doesn't matter. We can resolve those identifiers at any one of a number of places. The resolver associates the identifier for the thing with a set of links. You can get the link set, you can turn it into RDF, and you can do some fancy stuff with triples and Sparkle and everything else. Or you can just treat it as an API and say, I want this information. The resolver can do all those things for you. That's all part of our standard. Can we get rid of the GS1 bit? Can we get rid of the barcode thing and where it's about jams and jars of packets of risotto rice and mushrooms, which is my usual example? Yes, we can. So at ISO soon, unless something goes wrong, we'll be standardizing GS1 digital link without the GS1 bits. Here's how you take an existing identifier system, whatever your identifier system is, follow the rules about putting identifiers in order separated by the path. Descriptive attributes can go in the query string, and this use of the link type parameter on the end of the URL to query a conformant resolver. Because if we do that, you start with an identifier and you end up with at least a basic API for everything in the world.